Hi everybody, welcome back. So glad to see you again. So I'm kind of excited about this week's video. I'm going to briefly go into the paradox of healing. I wanted to talk about not only just like the positives of healing, but also kind of like the not fun parts of it, because I feel like a lot of people will either talk about like one side of it or the other, when really there's like a whole spectrum of things going on that I feel like I've experienced during at different points and different stages in my own healing journey, and I'm sure like a lot of people have. What the hell is going on with my necklaces? Goodness. Okay, cool. Let's get into it. So, as far as healing goes, like why do people want to heal anyway in the first place? Like what motivates them to heal? Usually a lot of the time it's a lot of unresolved wounds and like emotional trauma from the past that's kind of just, presenting itself and still, present here and in the now. And it's like impacting your life or in some way. And a lot of the time we're being, made conscious of patterns that we've just been unconsciously making. And we're trying to learn more about them and become more aware of them. And more often than not, this sort of thing starts within childhood. So then when we talk about healing, a lot of the time we are talking about inner child work and like shadow work and whatnot. They're all kind of pretty much connected. And the thing about that is we all have an inner child, and I think that is a crucial aspect to keep in mind when we're talking about healing in our patterns that we've developed. We all have an inner child, and I think that's a very crucial aspect to consider when we are talking about healing trauma and healing unconscious patterns that have been played out our entire lives. Because I think a lot of people get uncomfortable with the idea that we even like have an inner child, which is kind of absurd to me. Because we were all children once, and that's where like a lot of our worldview and like understanding of things and like our, say personality, I guess, it's where it all starts. It's where it's developed. So with that said, I think it's really important that we keep that part of us in mind and understand that in order to move forward, that sometimes we kind of have to look back, or in order to move to a higher frequency, sometimes we have to dive deep. In order to go high, we got to get down deep. Something else I've also learned during this time that it kind of blew my mind is that we all have equal parts inner child, ego, and our soul or our higher self. And I've said before that I just think like this ego that a lot of us talk about is like not exactly a full and nuanced understanding of it, because I do not believe that the ego is something that you necessarily kill. It is something that we just learn to understand and manage, so that way the ego is not driving the car and just not controlling every aspect of our lives. And I think the thing that blew my mind about it is the inner child, ego, soul. We have the inner child, God the Son, the ego, God the Father, and then our soul, which is God, the Holy Spirit. And that makes up the Holy Trinity. I thought that was some crazy shit. But when it was explained to me like that, I was like, makes so much sense. I don't even know what I want to do with my eyes yet, but I'm like prepping and shit like that. Well, we can do my eyebrows. We can do a little bit of work to my eyebrows. And honestly, I feel like I need new eyebrow stuff because it feels like not the right color, and like I don't even know if I'm all that much a fan. Or again, maybe I just need a different color, which is very possible. Because it's like so easy to just go overboard with my eyebrows because they're so dark. Or, well, not dark. They are dark, but they're very full already. So, super easy to like overdo it if you're not careful. Okay, cool. Eyebrows are prepped. I'm feeling orangey today because the outfit I'm wearing is like rusty colors with like, I don't know, goldy yellow tones in it and all of that fun stuff. Okay, we're just gonna wing it. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna wing the F out of it. So what are some of these benefits to doing the inner work? And really it just comes down to you no longer walking through life with as much like emotional baggage. And you know, you're never totally without emotional baggage or trauma, but it's just no longer like running your life per se. And you just get to break those cycles and patterns that maybe you've seen just played out within your relationships or your friendships or your family or even in like your career and in your workplace. You also just have a lot more compassion for yourself because you're a lot more understanding of like life and how things affected you. And also in turn, you kind of have more compassion for everyone else around you. And also like authenticity. That's another one. And that's, I think, such a crucial part is authenticity. You are showing up now for yourself. You're showing up in life as authentically as possible, and that gets you to so many places. You get to find your tribe, you find the people that you love, and you get to build a community, build a tribe, build a family. You get to find like where you want to be. You get to find yourself in the career that you want to be in. You get to find yourself in opportunities that you want to take part of and find yourself in because you're moving through life authentically and aligning with that frequency. Quite a beautiful thing. And really, you're just also no longer like operating from survival-based emotions or like the lower chakras or like lower vibrations, which really relate to like a lot of those other things that I just laid out for you too. And that sounds great and all, but the process is something that can be very daunting for a lot of people, which I often feel like is the reason that like a lot of people don't do the work or like avoid doing the work as long as possible. But the ironic thing is like the longer you put it off or the more you put it off, the more you avoid yourself, you're just going to keep running into yourself because really all you're avoiding is you. And the process can be very liberating. Like, as we've just laid out, it is a very liberating process, but it's also very devastating. And so what do I mean by it can be a very devastating process? I mean, a lot of the times you can find yourself very flustered, very sad, very confused, even like throughout this process. And that's totally okay. Going through shadow work and triggers can be very heavy and also even sad and stressful. But again, while all of that is true, it's very important data. Contrary to popular belief, I don't think triggers are something to avoid either. They let you know where the work still needs to be done. Granted, I don't think that people should just go around being awful and like triggering people on purpose if they know that something may be hurtful to them. Not what I mean at all. Triggers are very important, and again, they just let you know what still needs to be worked on and what is still hurtful for you. And once you feel all of those emotions and allow them to process, you can move forward. So a useful tool that I've actually learned to help identify my triggers is to, one, like identify the trigger in itself, which sometimes can be difficult if you're just a person that kind of goes about their day and then you just kind of let things pile up and then you just explode. Once you identify what the trigger is exactly, then next is to identify the emotions that surround that trigger. And if you're like me, who also has trouble identifying emotions, an emotion wheel can definitely be super helpful for that, which I will maybe like put somewhere in the video or like link it in the or in the description section. But that's also going to be another super helpful identifier. And then after you do that, you definitely want to analyze like what story are you telling yourself around this trigger. And like what I mean is like maybe it's something along the lines of like, I don't feel safe, I'm not worthy, I'm not whatever it is. Like, what is the story that you're telling yourself? Or like what comes up in your head exactly. And then after that, you also want to notice like what behavior are you engaging in during this process? Like what behaviors are we doing? Or like, do we scream? Do we cry? Do we go for a J or a cigarette or like a drink? Like what do we do? Like once we get into this mode. And then all of this information can also help us figure out where in the past has this also happened and like when did this start. My advice too with also keeping track of these is like to one, also like put these in like a journal or like a note in your phone if that's like a lot easier. Great way to do that. And then really just collect all of that information and then analyze that. And if you have a therapist, even like work with them to kind of look at that and just really identify like what the core wounding and the core messaging is and the pattern within those and what the through line is, so to say. And then another thing is to also like find ways to kind of ground and affirm yourself. Grounding is really important to kind of just remind you of what is true within the present moment, especially when things can get a little scary. Whew. That's crazy. Oh my god. Oh, wow. Wowie. Oh my god. Yes. Work. With grounding yourself, let's take this tape off. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Woo. Crisp. Ooh, yes, absolutely. Oh my god. I'm thinking this little gold eyeshadow, it's like a white gold from this like Baby Yoda palette. I like how he has a name and we all just decided it's Baby Yoda. But yeah, like this white gold, it's called Precious Cargo. Oh my god, I love it so much. So even with grounding, sometimes you also do have to like do a little bit of trial and error with grounding. Like a very common method with grounding is like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and kind of like engage your senses. But then a lot of it also just has to do with like reminding yourself that you are safe and that you are in a safe space and that you have support. Sometimes it's things as simple as that. And also just kind of like affirming. And if you have any certain thoughts that tend to come up when you get triggered, is through logging that, write down like a reframe of those thoughts and affirm them to yourself. Like, make reminders in your phone if you have to, so you see them every day, and it gets a lot easier and you get more comfortable with those thoughts. Even if you're not exactly like quite ready to just like say them to yourself in the mirror or whatever, or say them out loud to yourself. Sometimes that can be a little uncomfortable for some people, and I feel like it is kind of for me to like affirm them out loud. But even just seeing them like pop up on my phone and like looking through like my reminders on my phone does feel great. And I feel a sense of calm like when I look at it. So that can be super helpful. But also, so can writing them, if writing them is like your thing. Or if you are comfortable with saying them out loud, knock yourself out. But just a way to have them, so that way it's there when you need it. Because sometimes, especially when you're feeling a little awful, like it's not always going to be like the first thing that comes to your mind, because reason, logic, and things around that nature like tend to just go out the window when you're activated, and that's okay. It's human. And sometimes all you need is a good pause, even like just to pause, take a fucking second, and just breathe. I'm obsessed with this like color combination. I was just kind of gonna stick it to like this orangey sort of color, but I don't know, man. I was kind of right for adding in some like red, which is basically what I did. I kind of added some like red and black, or like, I don't know if I'd call it red, but like burgundy color. And no regrets, I'll say that. Kind of have to get in there. Yes. So I'm gonna do the rest of this off camera, and then I'll be right back to finish this up. All right, so this is the complete look. I'm quite digging it. I love the color combination. It's super dope. Just to conclude this video, what did we go over? So it was basically the motivators for people wanting to pursue a healing journey, and kind of what that looks like, and the benefits to healing, but as well as like the paradox of healing, about how that is liberating but also kind of devastating all at the same time, and why that is. And even something I think I failed to mention before is that like sometimes even like regression can kind of happen along the healing journey, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It kind of can even be a good thing, and just shows that you're moving forward. Seems kind of, again, paradoxical, but it is true. But again, the more we lean into when we start to regress into like certain patterns or certain triggers come up, it lets us analyze what is happening to move forward. So I think something to keep in mind when you're going through this journey, if you're going through this journey, is to be patient. Be really patient with yourself. It's a lot of undoing and unlearning, and to also not judge yourself throughout the process, because it's quite easy for fear and shame and confusion to come up throughout this whole experience. It's very normal, but it's best not to feed into it too much, and to affirm that you are fine and you're doing well and you're doing amazing just by embarking on this journey alone. So if there's anything that you'd like to add to this conversation, very much do so in the comments. And I'd love to hear if anything comes up for you, or if you just have anything you'd like to add. Anyway, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.